a job. A very hard-working minister.
But it's a good sign.
Well, that is a decision. But I know she was pushed. I know she was pushed to resign because it was a very hard decision. So the issue is that when people steal our money,
all right,
are we allowing these people to continue just like that?
Okay,
it's very painful.
Thank you, Mr. Glover, for your submission as well. And Dr. Clement Park, I mean, obviously, when you hear these stories, when these come out, as ordinary person, in quotes, ordinary, you are alarmed, and then you wonder what's happening in our institutions.
Well, first of all, let me say good morning to viewers, particularly the inhabitants of Busa South.
Busa South.
Oh
yes, I know you.
The chiefs and people of the Busa traditional area had the opportunity to visit the president yesterday and interacted very fruitfully. And on their behalf, I want to extend my sincerest gratitude to His Excellency for hosting the chiefs of the Busa South.
We also
all right, go ahead, please.
Yes.
I
think that this issue that we are talking about, we must put it into proper perspective.
Where the proper perspective would be
the fact that we have rules and regulations, and we have expectations of how public officers should conduct themselves, and as far as the disbursement of public resources are concerned. And in as much as we would all say that this particular experience which has ignited this conversation is something that could have been avoided, as the minister rightly alluded to. The truth is that we are putting in measures to try and deal with these kinds of situations.
So there's already a law. Why do you need to put in measures? There's already a procurement act that is being placed.
I mean, but you have to abide by it. You remember the context within which I'm trying to secret
all right, go on.
the case.
Okay, all right, go on.
It has occurred. We have a parliament. Parliament has a responsibility to go over and look at the content of the Auditor General's report. Even when occurrences are identified in that report, there are ways to institute remedial measures. And I believe that part of that process is what the law allows for Parliament to begin with. And I'm glad that we have a lawyer here. He indicated very clearly that indeed the judiciary also has a role to play in these matters.
But the judiciary cannot go and pull those individuals somebody must start it.
Is that, as the president has said over and over again, there are weaknesses in our system. And whilst we are looking at dealing with the results of those weaknesses, which allows for these kinds of occurrences to take place, we are not allowing people to just walk away free, as Titus Glover is trying to indicate. We know for a fact that when we speak about corruption and its detrimental effects in this country, there has been no better public advocate in admonishing all of us to expose it in the history of the Fourth Republic beyond His Excellency President Dramani Mahama. So rather than trying to suggest as though, as Titus would say it, corruption has become a profession, and I'm waiting for him to point to me
the name of the association.
One individual that he knows is a professionally corrupt individual. And why he has not gone to file a case
the association's name
and as a member of Parliament.
Okay.
Because he has a responsibility to expose such people and to invoke his rights within the mandate of the Constitution to ensure that they are held accountable. It's not simply sufficient to make those kinds of allusions simply because of political expediency. As we are speaking now, you know for a fact that the president has made it part of the mandate of his ministers to put together and chair the audit review implementation committees in every ministry as part of his effort to deal with these kinds of situations. And what they are supposed to do is to take the Auditor General's report, review it, identify portions of that report which alleges impropriety within their ministries. And then they set officers who either as a result of negligence, of intent,
or willful
connivance may have allowed some of these things to occur, would then be wheeled in to answer to the queries within the Auditor General's report. And then they are supposed to forward a report to His Excellency about what they have done within their own ministries, and as far as the Auditor General's report is concerned. So there's a lot that is going on. And that is just only one example of the efforts that this government is putting in to try and ensure that whilst we are looking at strengthening public institutions, we also try to take away the incentive that allows for this to happen. But imagine, for example, if you are a chief director or a director of the account department in a ministry, and your minister wheels you in to come and respond to a section in the Auditor General's report that has to do with your portfolio. That in itself is going to begin to serve as a deterrent. And these are some of the things that we have to do. So whilst we are looking at immediate actions, punishments, retrieving resources that have ended up in wrong hands, we must also strengthen our systems so that we'll be able to save much needed resources to go towards the development of this country.
Okay. Yes, just a quick one. This round, unfortunately, we don't have lots, so you have 1 minute each time.
Well, I think that usually when the government takes over itself some of these criticisms, the actual corporates then take over. Because most of these things may not have anything to do with the government as like the president. It may not. The actual corporates are there.
The ministries.
But once you color it with a government, if you like, colors, then they take over. Unless people feel uneasy because
politicizing it actually hurts the issue.
Yes, but not so much about politicization, but so much about the government taking it upon itself to assess these criticisms are that or those of the president not performing his functions. These are clear.
But clearly,
in reaction to what Mr.
Glover made if you have comments like that, doesn't it also sort of give him that pushing to say?
Yes, but I'm saying that. But that's why I'm taking the middle line. I'm saying that if we do so, and in fact, that has also been one of the reasons why the actual corporates never get to be punished, or we are unable to recover this. If you criticize EC for not meeting the expectation of the people, the government will then come to the aid and defend the EC. The EC will then claim that it is independent. So why don't we leave these state institutions, which are independent, have their minds of their own to defend themselves? If a lawyer in a ministry, with all his eyes open, will allow things like this to go on in breach of a law which makes it a criminal offense, why should the government then come to the aid of that lawyer? That lawyer will have to be sued. He should be referred to the General Legal Counsel for disciplinary action if it's appropriate, and let people be on their own to defend the wrongs they've done to the state. Okay. But if we jump into it, and as if we are coming to the aid of it, then it makes the assertion by others that some of these people have also been brought there not because of competence, but because of party or other political considerations.
All right, thank you.
And that becomes a problem.
Mr. Saisigo, you also have 1 minute. Thank you.
Are you sure?
Yes, please. 1 minute. 20
you asked my brother 7:30. When he said they are putting in measures, and quickly you jumped to say that the best measure you have is the law. It is the application of the law that will strengthen the role of control on corruption. And is it that because I use the word corruption has become a profession? That is why. You see, what happened? We were here when we heard about this DVLA, the money that was paid.
The photo.
The photo.
To air his women.
He's just walking free. $3.6 million has not changed into $9.something million. It's working
9.9.
Okay. And this branding matter.
It means a lot to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Wyoming gate, the Super gate, the Jida, the Brazil gate, all these things that is happening. Today we are going with a cup in hand. Do you understand?
Brazil gate, Wyoming gate.
You see, we are going with a cup in hand, begging for the IMF to give us pittance. If we can put in measures to block all these loopholes, I'm sure that we'll not be going begging for the IMF to give us all this money. Parliament, and for that matter, the Public Accounts Committee hasn't got prosecutorial powers. All we are doing is, they are doing what we are saying. It is the police and the AG, including the Auditor General himself.
Okay.
Under the Internal Audit Act and the Financial and Administration Act.
So who gets to sue then?
You understand?
Okay.
Well,
they should take the initiative. They have the powers under the law to prosecute these people. So that even when they come to PSC, they can even show evidence that, look, we have been started pursuing these people.
Before it gets, before the Auditor General reports come out, right?
And I'm saying that
under the Constitution, it's only
under
the
the
Attorney General that can commence criminal prosecution.
Yeah, but then it comes
with finesse.
Thank you. But it comes back to the point you made that Auditor General, the Attorney General, yes, but the Attorney General is appointed by the President.
Oh well, I mean, I don't share the view that even the Attorney General's department should be decoupled from the position of Minister of Justice. I don't share the view.
Okay.
I think that when persons by themselves should have minds of their own. When they become professionals, they should have multiple minds of their own, which should be positive.
Okay.
And which it means that your ultimate loyalty is not to the president, because he doesn't even pay you. It is the people of Ghana who pay you. They are the ones to whom your ultimate loyalty. If the president asks you to do something or authenticate or validate a document and you think that is inconsistent
your conscience,
with your conscience and your training and profession, and you knew that if you had done it to a private person, it could lead to you being the bad or something, don't endorse it and lose your job. That is the only way. But
no, don't endorse it and keep your job.
No, don't endorse it.
No.
You don't endorse it.
No, I get it. But I'm saying
you lose your job.
Yes, but rather you endorse it and keep your job.
No, that is
the problem.
So it has nothing to do with the Constitution, but it has so much to do with the persons. After all, I mean, Mr. Amidu is the sterling example in this regard. I am the one that determines who should be prosecuted and so on. You cannot compel me to do or not to do this. I resign. Let us have such nobility.
Okay.
An expectation. That is the expectation of the people who pay you.
Final minutes for Dr. Clement Appan. Then we'll move on to other stuff.
Well, I'm good. I see how Titus Glover is trying to politicize this issue, and I think that is the caution.
Why is Attorney General not prosecuting?
I'm saying that is the caution that Lawyer Opong has given, and I think that we should all abide by that. Because when we politicize this fight against corruption and corruption itself, the real people who are doing the damage to this country, they take cover. Then it comes to the political football. So it is very important that we depoliticize the fight against corruption so that we can fish out the real culprits and deal with them. And I think that is where this audit review implementation committees come in, because it allows you to be able to find out who in the ministry superintended willfully or negligently over a process which may then have led to a loss of resources to the state.
Yes, but at this moment, no, even before you continue, but at this moment, since we do not have, like you said, they're going to implement it, right? Then the head of that place takes the fall for it, because obviously it happens under your watch, so you must go.
Action is being taken. It is a process. We are not in a military dictatorship.
The president
you can't just go pick people up,
Mr. Tyson, you've had your opportunity.
throw them in the back of a pickup, and then put them in jail. You can't do that. I mean, there's a lawyer here. Even the most vicious and devious murderer is still allowed to have their day in court. And the Attorney General, by the way, has been able to save this country many millions of dollars and cedis by defending, prosecuting, and retrieving money. So to say that people just, quote unquote, steal money and walk away, it cannot be fair.
Yeah, but the president used those words, by the way. Meets the press. He said, people, I wish I said, those
no, but
let me try and quote him. He said, I wish I can just, take them. When people steal states' money, obviously it hurts. He wish he can just take them to the prison.
And he's being brutally honest.
That is what I've been talking about. That is not even the function of the president. To say that I could have arrested them and put them into jail, he doesn't have that power. That is the power of the Attorney General.
But that should tell you how enraged he is.
But when you arrogate
thank you.
some of these functions to yourself which you are not entitled to, and then also you say that I'm fighting corruption, the other person too will say that you are not fighting corruption. Yeah. It is not largely your function to even ensure that somebody is taken to court to be prosecuted.
In this country, everything you look up to the president. Isn't that what the problem
Well, it's not everything you look up to the president. There are individuals whose personal actions are their personal actions, and they have to be punished for it.
I mean, you are talking about corruption.
The chief
share prime land.
All those who
give away
state
affordable houses even before they are completed.
Hold on. Very unfair on the experts.
But
all those she wasn't fair on principle.
On principle.
On principle,
so
which I appreciated.
Yes,
but all those who had their signatures and minutes on that invoice.
She's superintendent over the
You understand? So what are they doing? It's a network.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll have to move on to some more stories. And police arrest suspected terrorists in Upper West region. That story is on page 4. And I must say that the Ghanaian Times newspaper has stated here that they indeed contacted the police. They did not confirm or deny it, but said they were investigating the issue, and so not actually, panic and fear and panic and all of that. The individual, we're told, is suspected to have taken part in the Ouagadougou attack. So the Ghanaian Times newspaper report says that police in the Upper West region have picked up a man suspected to be a terrorist. Zurai Ibrahim, 45, who is believed to have fled Burkina Faso into Ghana, was arrested at Guolu. Now, the regional crime officer, Superintendent Husseini Musa Awinaba, told the Ghanaian Times that the information they had was still sketchy, and he would not want to send fear and panic among the citizenry. Whatever the case is, I want to start from you, Mr. Tyson. Whatever the case is, I think isn't it reassuring to know that yes, he came to Ghana, but our security agencies are in, and they've at least nipped.
When you mention terrorists, then we are scared.
Suspected. This is suspected. That's what I'm saying. Not to add to the.
We have terrorists in our custody now.
We don't have terrorists in our custody.
We have terrorists.
We do not have terrorists.
You
are, and then you are not. I think you will use my program to do that.
You are not a serial caller.
We do not have terrorists in our country. That's please. You have to.
Yeah, but maybe suspected or
alleged terrorists.
Okay.
Maybe for want of better word. So it makes people shiver when you hear of the word terrorists.
Well, before they came into the country, they came into the country, in the Upper West region, the police busted some ammunitions, and in the rooms of those people who were arrested, they had videos. They were watching of Taliban, whatever recruits. So even before those people came into the country,
I'm sure
our security agencies were already investigating issues like on the alert. Exactly.
I'm sure because of the blasts in Burkina Faso, our border around Burkina. In fact, all the borders are on alert because we need to be very careful to make sure that these ISIS people and their groups don't enter. Of course, we know our borders are so porous, so they can easily enter. And reading the story from other sources, I'm told the gentleman was a former member of the Presidential Guards of the former president, Blaise. And he has been on their wanted list for some time now. So, fine, with the collaboration of the Ghanaian security agencies, he has been arrested. All they need to do is to hand him over to the Burkinabe security agencies to continue with the investigation and all that. But that should not be the end of the road. The behavior of these ISIS across the globe is becoming a problem. Whilst coming to your studio this morning, I listened to BBC, and in Afghanistan, the ISIS have entered part of the country. In some villages, what they are doing is that they are targeting media houses and the professionals, the journalists, and it's a condition.
But you know, there's whatever the cause is, there's a reason, there's a root to that. There's a root cause to that.
There should be a root cause, but it needs the collaboration of government and the citizenry, because all they need to do is that, look, use your medium to advocate ISIS. You either join us or we destroy you. And as I speak to you, that those media houses in Afghanistan where they have gotten hold to, they've blown some off.
Okay.
So it is a problem.
Okay,
so the mentioning of these terrorists and all these things,
okay,
I think it is something that as a country we need to tighten our ropes.
All right.
We need to make sure our borders are closed.
All right. Thank
our
you.
security agencies are well resourced, so the people who are coming and going in because of these ECOWAS protocols and all that are really, really watched.
All right.
To make sure we are not caught unawares.
Dr. Clement Park, I'm more interested in the fact that yes, if indeed he came to Ghana to hide, our security agencies were alert and well, they've not.
Well, I haven't read the story, but taking it on face value, I think that we have every reason to be happy about this development. If it's indeed the case that somebody who engaged or is suspected to have been one of the architects of the blast that occurred in our sister nation has indeed been apprehended, I think that it shows very clearly that our security agencies are up to the task. And indeed, I don't think that we can underrate the threat of terror. And as far as the current global dispensation is concerned, and I would want to agree with Honorable Titus Glover that the fight against extremism has to be a collective fight. Whilst it is indeed the case that in recent times, government has really retooled our security agencies, and you, Bridget, you've had the opportunity to interact with them severally on different platforms and your programs, you would agree that they are indeed prepared and ready, and they should be able to defend us if and when our security is threatened. But be as it may, the citizens, and that is why I truly agree wholeheartedly with Titus, we the citizens, we have a role to play, because in modern times, the citizens actually are equal partners in security. So if we observe, notice, become aware of other persons engaged in certain types of behavior, acting in certain ways that give us cause to worry, we have a responsibility to alert the state security apparatus for them to, indeed, if you like, pay particular attention and perhaps even monitor such individuals and their activities, so that, you know, we will be able to preemptively take the needed action before they cause harm. But so we shouldn't underrate the threat of global terror.
Sure.
But I think that we are ready, and I believe that we should be able to take care of our own.
Okay, all right. I know for a media house like Ghanaian Times, they want to put their story out. They try to get the police to, you know, comment on it. They would not either confirm or deny it because obviously they've got to investigate and be sure to allay fears because already people are sort of, you know, unsure, you know, where we stand because of our current situation. So what does it do really for the atmosphere that we're in?
Well, thank you. My comments on some of the state newspapers have not received favorable response from them, but I think that will continue to do that.
Okay.
It's a state newspaper.
Sure.
I am a customer, regular customer, and I have a duty to ensure that I get the best.
Sure.
When you write a story, I'm not a journalist, but when you write a story and you say that your source says he is not able to confirm or deny, in the first place, why put out the story? And there's the information received from who better than the police themselves. The man says he don't want to send fear and panic.
So they are investigating.
We are investigating. We will inform the public in due course.
Sure.
Why then this sensational, with all due respect, line, suspected terrorists arrested? And then you end up by saying that the story cannot be confirmed or denied. Those who have been through journalism, they should tell us whether this is an appropriate story to attract attention by a state newspaper. They can answer it, whether this is a genuine response from them or not. I will say it. Now, so I think that in the first place,
the reporter quoted the officer as saying that he would not want to send any fear and panic among the citizenry, and so the information itself is sketchy, and they are investigating.
Yes. If with respect, other newspapers
isn't that part of doing his job?
Oh, well, no. I mean, I think that you have your principles about checking, cross-checking, and checking, or whatever you say. I think that this is not a story that you should have put out at this stage of the story that they have. Now, because these are very sensitive matters, left with even national security, all right? We don't even know how far they've gone. Are we not going to send signals for people to even regroup? Is it not going to scatter the effort of the national security, who may even be very close to, for example, arresting people or collaborating with those in Burkina Faso? But so let us just be careful, in my own respect, as we move on. These matters, today, this country, most people, or a number of people cannot buy newspapers. They just get to the stands and say, hey, you see, a terrorist for Nibi. I mean, the system we live in. Not very sophisticated. And then they extend it to the so-called detainees. The thing has, they have started coming. They have started coming. It is not the best for us, internationally and even locally. In the village, my friends at the new 3 stations will say it very well and add anecdotes.
And they will embellish it.
Let us
I'm
try.
sure as we go tomorrow, I'm sure today we'll
Yes,
hear
let us
like
try and just ensure that some of these matters are reserved to national security. Indeed, when they are coming out to give us the information, they know how to at least polish it so it doesn't really send wrong signals to us. So I'll plead with our friends at
Ghanaian
Times, for example, today not graphic, thank God, that at least they should be measured, with all due respect, in putting up such stories. But otherwise, I'm always for state institutions doing their best to prevent commission of crimes and offenses. And I think that they've done well, but they should also then open their eyes and their minds wide. We, the citizens too, should also look around. It doesn't mean that when you see somebody in a strange beard or something that is normally associated with them, because they may be coming in nice suits, shaved, and so on. But look around, be suspicious, reasonably, of people, because we just need to be alive.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll have to move on to... we're actually staying on the Ghanaian Times. Another state also picked that story. I wanted to put the two together. It has to do with the sporadic gunshots at Yendi and unidentified persons at midnight on Sunday. Yes. Fired gunshots in the Yendi municipality of the northern region. The shooting was preceded by burning of old car tires in the middle of the main road near the community center. And this is said, of course, it has to do with the issue about the Abudus and the Andanis issuing threats at a press conference, encounter threat, and that went into midnight, and unfortunately we heard of some gunshots. I want to start from Mr. Clement Park, because I understand that the chieftaincy institution itself is to go there meet both factions. Is this a step back?
Well, first of all, I think that it is important that we urge caution and act for calmness.
Sure.
We are all aware of the situation that has precipitated this current occurrence.
Sure.
And indeed, government has been working through the committee, which is headed by Otunfo, to try and resolve this issue.
Sure.
And the last time I read about this, at least from where I sit, the processes had reached a very advanced stage, which was then going to culminate into the performance of the final funeral rites.
Sure.
After which, you know, the next stage would be for the processes of ensuring that the good people of Ghana, of Dabong, have the opportunity to select their overlord. And so, while that process is going on, I think it is a bit worrisome that interested parties are posturing the way they are.
Sure.
And I think what we can do now is to just urge caution.
Sure.
And to ask that all sides should trust that government is doing its best, working with the Otumfuo committee to ensure that the right thing is done. Because, you know, my father is a retired public servant, and he was once stationed in Yendi. Okay. So I have a personal knowledge of Yendi. I went to St. Peter's primary, RC primary in Yendi. I actually speak and understand Dagbani because of that. And these occurrences over time have affected the development of Yendi. And you know that without peace and security, it is very, very difficult to develop.
Okay.
So in the interest of our collective peace, in the interest of ensuring that the good people of Yendi also maximize the developmental opportunities and to take full advantage of both their natural and cultural resources, it would be good for us not to be beating war drums and acting in ways that would have the ability to disturb the peace.
Okay. Mr. Tyson,
I think that's
to experience
I've well spoken.
Yeah.
And I think that is the angle we all need to go. Because when you look at resources that will have been used in maintaining peace, will have been used to develop Dabong. And I think that the time has come for, these are two brothers. Historically, when you look at Dabong, the Abudus and their nannies come from the same womb. And I think that they are the best people to resolve their problems than inviting people from outside. All that we from outside can do is to complement their efforts of resolving this problem. And where they've gotten to, in I think that is about the burial of both chiefs who died.
Yeah.
That is, I'm sure, that is the bottom line. Let us all see the roadmap that have been done, so that peacefully we try to push this thing behind our back. And I think that if Dagbang is peaceful, Ghana is peaceful. If Dagbang is at war, Ghana is at war. And you know, the ordinary child who is growing up on the streets of Yendi, who has nothing to do with this problem, will be caught in this crossfire. And for all you know, one day this little boy or girl can be somebody to the benefit of Dagbang in this country. So we want all of us to join them in this current situation. I'm reading the story, and the Minister for Chieftaincy met the National House of Chiefs, at Sunyani, and they were trying to see how best they could all resolve them. So we want to appeal to both factions that they should cool down and let cool heads prevail, support government and everybody, so that together we can build Dabang and its effect on Ghana.
And like you said, I mean, I think I'm actually, we've all been very measured. I mean, you've all been very measured.
This is a very sensitive matter.
Yes, and
very sensitive matter.
But he just, you know, just brought something else in. There were people who have grown up in that community and absolutely do not know even why they are going through what they are going through. And obviously it's affected them, and sometimes you take a decision and not know why you're taking the decision, but because if my dad is doing it, I might as well, so he must be right. So how do we go around it?
It's a problem, but I think they have all expressed themselves creditably. I mean, it's a very important institution, chieftaincy. But I think, and I want to extend it to the chieftaincy institution as a whole, I think the fundamental problem has got to do with this so-called customary law not necessarily knowing writing. And that is why the Constitution and Article 272 stipulates that the National House of Chiefs, among others, shall advise any person or authority charged with responsibility under the Constitution or any other law for any matter relating to or affecting chieftaincy, undertake the progressive study, interpretation, and codification of customary law with a view to evolving, in appropriate cases, a unified system of rules of customary law and compiling customary laws, and this is more important to me, and lines of succession applicable to each stool or scheme. Lines of succession. Because you see, when we are able to do this, people know that in the system where the chieftaincy rotates, there's no doubt that when it's not your time, with the exception of a few who may still be greedy, when it's not your time and it's the time for this other person, you don't just disturb. Because we know that chieftaincy is a matter of consanguinity. Anthropologists will tell us. It can only be traced through blood.
That's right.
So if you, and blood, depending on whether you are matrilineal or patrilineal or some other established system, but it must be blood. So the fact that you're from your father may not necessarily mean that you can become a chief in your father's house. You may be in your mother's house. So when we put these things together and it becomes clear to us, especially the young ones, and they know that people are doing this just because of greed, but also, just before I end, it is not so much about the chieftaincy per se, but land.
Yeah.
It's usually, and stool property is usually also at the heart of some of these conflicts. So we will say that we will have to try as much as possible to urge the National House of Chiefs, put these things together, publish them stool by stool, at least paramount stool by paramount stool, in the languages that the people may understand. And when people know this, and make it a difficult thing for people to engage in these conflicts, because there are a lot of others elsewhere. The Dagbon one is quite prominent because most people, because of the unfortunate situation that occurred some years ago. And I also urge that if the eminent chiefs need assistance, I think they should let us know, because I think that between 2009 or so and present, our inability to hear from them on a conclusive way appears to me, with all humility, to amount to inordinate delay on their part, with all due respect.
Okay.
I think that they should have by now concluded it's not just about the burial, because it is after the burial that the appropriate person will be nominated, elected, installed, and skinned in this case.
Yeah.
And so there's so much at stake even post the burial.
Okay.
And we have to look beyond that.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lawyer spoke about the codification of the lines of succession.
Yes.
Indeed, I can tell you that the Minister for Chieftaincy and Traditional Affairs is doing a fantastic job.
He's a lawyer as well,
he's an anthropologist actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Dana.
He's a lawyer as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so good combination there.
Right.
He's doing a fantastic job.
All right, thank
And
you.
sooner or later,
Thank you.
it will be publicized.
Thank you
But
very
just a
much.
quick one. It is a difficult and dicey situation. So
I think that's what we've all been
I
measured
know.
in
I'm
that.
only saying that in response to what Lawyer Pong said. He feels that it should have moved a lot more faster.
All right.
But with these kinds of situations, you must tread very cautiously and
I
gingerly,
agree.
All right.
and
Thank
make
you.
sure that it is done properly.
They should measure it.
All right, thank you. So our final, if we have time, our final will be quick commenting on the depositors scramble. Daily Graphic has captured it, and so has Daily Guide captured it. Those were the biggest stories, really, indeed, on the front pages, of the Daily Guide and the Daily Graphic. But Daily Graphic puts it as depositors scramble for DKM's assets, and rightly so, right? They have been, they put their monies there, and I tell you, it's not just DKM. Right now, DKM is in the spotlight, but DG Capital, I tell you, duped thousands TV3 staff.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Including myself, by the way.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and then you go there, hang on, the building is there, all right, is locked up currently. But how much really can Bank of Ghana really pay? Because they hold some of the monies, obviously. And then these things happen, but then they've gone there. They don't. There's nothing.
But I think it's an illegality. Yeah, it's an illegality.
It reminds me the days of Piram.
Out of our
And this was 5,000.
Yes, I heard that.
It's not different from this one.
Yeah.
And
it's illegal, but can you blame them?
depositors should be always careful. I mean, in the normal traditional banking system, where you go and invest in TBs, then somebody will tell you he's going to give you more than TB rates. He can double the money for you, and you are not alarmed. You are not being careful, and you go and put your money in such an investment. The Bank of Ghana in itself is not helping us.
How so?
Because when these things were coming up, all these while we don't even hear this, and they were going their work normally, and the Bank of Ghana raised the alarm, and
they've helped,
and it's gone haywire. But I think that I don't know, but people have lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm told some are even going off because all their lifetime monies have been invested in this arrangement.
All right.
And looking at what has happened,
but what I know,
carrying a check,
if they owe him 500,
I remember I was told 2 days ago that in fact a judge also got a judgment against them. So if you judges, you can imagine the level. So I think he got a typewriter. but I think that in our desperation and emotions, we also have to comply with law. When a court makes an order, rules in your favor that you are entitled to recover money from another, you don't go and carry the person's properties.
But how will they get the money?
The law has already provided procedures. It doesn't matter whether they stole your money or not. You don't apply an illegality to resolve an illegality.
Okay, so I'm asking.
The procedure is clear. Your lawyers, or if you commence the case yourself, you have to then go back to the court.
The guy is covering his face.
The procedure for execution are clear. If they have some monies in the bank, you can just go and garnish the account. If they don't have it and this property,
how do they do that? You see, people don't know, lawyer.
Yes,
people don't know because look, in the case of TV3, I can assure you that it's not because the staff, who were with DG Financial Services wanted interest. No, they just, sometimes you get these small money. The people come away, they force it, and they just give it to them.
Yes.
Before you know it, it's become something big. So how do you? And some didn't know how to get their monies back.
Of course. So, but I'm saying that let me say something I consider to be a very crude principle of law. The ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But what I'm saying is that the procedure is not go and take this money. It's stealing. The law has provided the procedure. They can either garnish the account if they have money. In this case, they may not have. Even the director's property can also be attached in an appropriate case if they have illegally or unlawfully transferred the company's assets for themselves to establish their own. And then I heard that the lawyer represented them, and that even quoted to have said that a lot more people will go and take more of the things. I don't think that we can live in a country where we will just try and apply illegal means or acts to resolve an illegality. Now, but I stop at a place where I don't blame the depositors substantial, as I will blame the state institutions that are responsible for the supervision of these institutions.
So they let it go on for so long.
Is it not interesting, or maybe curious, that within this space of time, we just heard that Bank of Ghana has withdrawn about 70 of such licenses. And it is very clear that somebody did not perform his function. We know that people are vulnerable. And that is why I was a bit on the edge, with all due respect to the president. Just that my uncle would have been expected to do this, but not highly educated people. We are vulnerable. We are vulnerable. And that is why the law has provided that we should pay some people to ensure that we prevent some of these things. If they don't perform, definitely people will fall to some of these things. Right. So please, we want Bank of Ghana and the allied institutions to just open. Now I hear there will be insurance that will be implemented.
Yes,
that would be a very good thing. But of course, it will just be subject to the premium they pay.
They pay. All right.
We just have to be careful anyway.
Unfortunately, Dr. Clement Park, I will have to take your time. I'm sorry. I will be biased. Not. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know he wouldn't have taken it lightly.
Let him take in a word. He can take in a word. But you have the opportunity most of the time anyway.
Be very
careful,
cautious. When somebody promises you a 55% interest, please
think
about it critically.
But what I know from others is not because of the interest. Some people just want to put their coins somewhere. They don't even care about the interest.
Your bank account.
Seek advice. Put it under your pillow.
Okay, all right. But the banks don't come around to take their susu every day. But these people do, because they want them and they know what they are using the money for. All right, thank you so much. Member of Parliament, Tema East, Titus Glover, joined us this morning. Thank you so much for Titus Glover. Yes, thank you very much. Also, Dr. Clement, presidential staffer and lawyer Yao Opon. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen, this morning.